Good evening. This is the Village Council Public Workshop. The date is April 24th, 2024. The time is 7:34. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Perrin.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Whites.
Here.
Councilmember Winograd.
Here.
And Mayor Vagianos.
Here. Will you all please join us in a salute to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll go to public comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Boyd A. Loving, 342 South Irving Street. At this time, I'd like to publicly thank members of the Engineering Department, Street Department, and Water Pollution Control Department for participating in a full day of removing 8 tons of concrete block that had been mysteriously dumped behind some of the houses in the 300 block of South Irving Street and along a right-of-way owned by the Village of Ridgewood along Hopper Avenue, which was at one time at Paper Street. I went down to observe the men, there were no women, working that day, and it was a real back-breaking job. They did have some power equipment there to assist them, but a lot of the work in terms of getting the material into the power equipment was done with long crowbars, and it was really a difficult job. 8 tons of concrete, you can imagine. Now, I understand that there is still some more work done. They're going to get some specialized equipment down there to do it, but that material had been down there for what we believe to be decades. It had somehow or another been there, put there from apparently, from what I'm told, a curb improvement or street improvement job somewhere in the village. And I guess at that time, that was before the condos had been built in the area and it was a no man's land. But now that the area is developed, there was concern by some of the neighbors on South Irving Street and in the condo association that rats could be hanging out in there, it could be collecting water. So we're really thankful for the efforts of those 3 departments for getting that 8 tons of concrete out, and we're looking forward to the last of it being removed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Boyd.
Rorick Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. I'm holding a virtual bouquet, and which I would like to present to Nancy Begos and her team at Parks and Rec. Why, you ask, a virtual bouquet? Because I cannot afford a bouquet that is big enough and impressive enough to reflect the amazing job Nancy and her team did last Sunday at the Daffodil Festival and Earth Day Fair at Van Ness Memorial Park. The park was busier than Grand Central at rush hour. And what fun people had with the music, the Daffy Dog Parade, the goats, the crafts, etc. Also, the many exhibitors with serious civic and environmental messages, a great way to attract and engage the public. I wonder if anybody tried to estimate the number of attendees. My guess is at least 1,000. Backing Parks and Rec were various village departments, also the Conservancy and Green Ridgewood. Any way you look at the event, it was Ridgewood at its best. Thank you.
Thank you, Rorick. Anyone else?
And Green Ridgewood.
And seeing no one from the audience, we'll go to our hybrid access. Diane, you're up. Diane, there you go. Good.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Vagianos and council members. My name is Diane Wolke. I'm a board member with Safe Healthy Playing Fields, which is an all-volunteer 501c3 registered in Maryland. We have affiliate members throughout New Jersey, across the country. And in fact,
Diane, if I may, could we have your address, please?
I am outside of New Jersey, and I am actually calling from Southern California this evening.
I understand, but if we could have your address. Thank you.
It's Manteca Drive in Oceanside, California.
Thank you.
May I continue?
By all means.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to you this evening about your green amendment and the greenwashing that's going on with the synthetic turf issue in your city. This is an issue that's going on around the country as well as around the globe. Synthetic turf blades are being found in our oceans and our waterways and our lakes, including Lake Tahoe. The Mediterranean Sea is loaded with synthetic turf blades. In fact, there's research that is out there that shows just how significant a problem this is. Synthetic turf is not recyclable. New Jersey is becoming the next dumping grounds for used synthetic turf fields. There are currently 4 locations in New Jersey that are under investigation and will be reported out by investigative reporters. Your water district is suing 3M for pollution, while using synthetic turf would only add more PFAS to your community. Each field of 80,000 square feet contains between 1 and 38 pounds of this toxic material. Even those fields that are, or those manufacturers that are promoting their fields as being eco-friendly, they are still plastic. There are over 16,000 chemicals in plastics. PFAS is just one of the various class of chemicals in these fields. They also include things like phthalates, which are neurotoxic, heavy metals, and more. The US EPA just released new water guidelines, MCLs, or maximum contaminant levels, on the 10th of this month. 27,000 gallons of toxic runoff per acre for every 1 inch of rainfall is what we're talking about from these impermeable surfaces, so designated by both the US EPA as well as the state of New Jersey. How long will it take Ridgeway to violate the National Pollution Discharge Elimination permit and your MS4 permit with these fields? In case people aren't paying attention this week, we are trying to negotiate an international plastics treaty. The Revolutionary and Civil Wars were not fought to give local jurisdictions the right to pollute land, air, and water. Please consider using organically managed natural grass fields. There are appropriate hybrids available for every single climate zone in the country, and they are appropriate. There are fields that are appropriate for high use. They've been in existence for many, many years. Natural or synthetic turf is not a sustainable material. It is made from petrochemical plastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Karen, you're up.
Hi, my name is Karen Sauerwein, and I'm actually calling from outside of New Jersey as well, but I grew up in Ridgewood.
Karen, if we could have your address, it is our custom to ask for everyone's address.
I'm on Huntington Street in Philadelphia.
At what number on Huntington Street?
2609.
Thank you so much.
So I'm calling also in regards to the turf. So I'm actually a parent of young children who love to play sports. And as I said, I grew up in Ridgewood, and I'm deeply concerned about the proposed plan to have the artificial turf. I'm also a textile engineer and understand that it is extremely toxic. And I'm also friends with some people that have been greatly affected by artificial turf here in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. And I'm just urging that, you can install less expensive grass fields and preserve the green spaces that that the building plan is going to have on, and you could just save so much on cost and lives, and really secure kids' access to safe sports play. I am just appalled and shocked that Ridgewood would even propose a plan growing up there. And I'm just asking, is Ridgewood okay with, in Ridgewood, is getting cancer a sacrifice children and their parents have to make to play sports? I'm just asking you all to really listen to what the previous person had said, because it's so important to the lives of our children and to future generations in Ridgewood. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Seeing no one else who has not spoken, I'm going to close public comment, and we will move on. I want to thank Boyd and Rurik for recognizing the great work that our village staff do every day, and they go above and beyond, and I've known this for the 30 years that I've been a resident in Ridgewood, and it is so nice to hear them publicly applauded.
May I?
By all means.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. We did not pass a green amendment. The idea of a green amendment is to our state constitution. What our council did was we passed a resolution in support of that idea. That's all.
All good? Let's move on to our village manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to begin tonight by extending greetings for Passover. I hope everyone had a happy and blessed Passover. I do want to piggyback off the comments made by Mr. Hallaby. I want to thank Nancy Bigos and all the community organizations who participated in organizing the Earth Day and Daffodil Festival at Van Ness Park this past Sunday. It was truly breathtaking how many community members showed up. You couldn't even walk down the pathways. You were stuck in a line visiting each of the vendors and the community groups that were there to celebrate Earth Day. So I just want to commend everyone all around for the tremendous job they did on Sunday. Last week, the Environmental Protection Agency at the federal level distributed new water regulations when it comes to PFAS. We've been working closely with Ridgewood Water and Director Calby in monitoring what those requirements are. It will lower the required level down to 4 parts per trillion, and the EPA mandate requires water utilities to be in compliance by 2029. Fortunately, here in Ridgewood, as we discussed at our last council meeting, we will be at undetectable PFAS levels by 2026 with the $150 million investment that the prior council and this council are committed to. So I want to thank Rich and his team at Ridgewood Water. I want to thank the other 3 service area communities, Midland Park, Glen Rock, and Wyckoff, and the folks here in Ridgewood for all supporting this plan. And we're starting to see the community understand that we are going to be ahead of the curve when it comes to these treatment facilities here in Ridgewood. Very pleased to announce that we have confirmed a meeting with the United States Army Corps of Engineers, a community meeting. It'll be held here in the council chambers on June 17th. It will be an evening meeting, and there will be hybrid access, just as there is with council meetings. So we will be putting out some communications on that meeting. We'll make sure that all of the residential areas who are frequently affected by flooding are made aware of the meeting, and we'll also be sharing it with the community at large. This week we applied for the New Jersey Historic Trust grant for the pedestrian tunnel at the train station. So we're looking forward to that grant process proceeding, and hopefully we'll receive some good news from the state sometime in the fall. A week ago Friday, I had a meeting with Senator Corrado, Assemblyman Barlas, and Assemblyman DePhillips at our newly elected Assemblyman Barlas's office in Wayne. We were there with the governor's chief of staff and the newly appointed acting DOT commissioner. We discussed the funding for the rehabilitation of the bus station in the downtown, and we have a commitment from from Governor Murphy's Chief of Staff and from the new DOT Commissioner that they will, for all intents and purposes, commit to funding the rehabilitation of the bus station. So we will be submitting a formal grant application. They were very cooperative in discussing this. As you all know, we have some leftover funds from the park and ride when the village facilitated and organized the required permits to park at the park and ride on Route 17. We are in negotiations with them about turning that money over to the state. And as part of that negotiation, they are committed to helping us rehabilitate the bus station in the Central Business District. I want to thank the folks from Age Friendly, especially Sheila and Beth. They have updated their 5-year report, which I believe was circulated to the council. It was also published on the website today. The work that Age Friendly does in this community is significant. And if you read their report, a lot of the things that we've been talking about at this dais over the last year are now incorporated in their vision plan for the next 5 years. So I want to thank them for that. Also very excited to report tonight that the temporary certificate of occupancy has been issued by the building department for the Zabriskie Shedler house on the Shedler property.
More applause.
There you go. Moving right along here. So Mr. Molino issued that certificate of occupancy today, now that the ADA pathway has been established on the property, and we are tentatively scheduling an open house on June 8th. It's a Saturday, and we will be putting out some communications to announce that. In talking to Nancy Bigos today, her recommendation was that we did half-hour tours. So I think we're going to take that suggestion, and there'll be a Google sign-up sheet so that we can regulate the amount of people in the house. The capacity is 49 individuals at a time, so we want to make sure that if there is a significant amount of interest in seeing the alterations and the upgrades that were made to the house, that we can have the appropriate amount of people in there at one time. And finally, with regard to the resubmission of the application for the Shedler property for the park development plan, tonight on the agenda, the council will consider awarding a contract to Suburban Engineering to conduct the wetland delineation and the LOI. One of the holdups that we experienced this month was trying to determine whether or not that work effort should be conducted directly by the DEP or whether that work effort could be conducted by an outside vendor. The decision came down to the fact that the DEP has so many of these requests statewide in the queue that it may have taken months for this work effort to get undertaken. So in working with the engineering department, we made the determination that it would be best to award this contract to Suburban so that we can expedite the process of doing this wetland delineation review and the LOI. So that's on tonight's agenda for consideration. A couple of announcements tonight. Registration for Graydon Pool and the tennis pickleball badges are still ongoing. You can register through Community Pass. Badge distribution or in-person assistance is available Monday through Friday at the stable from 8:30 to 4:30, and the Graydon Badge office will be open on Saturday, May 11th and May 18th from 10 to 12. Yard waste pickup is ongoing. Please check the village calendar for your collection area, and also be reminded that under the popular resources tab on the village website, if you go to My Services Lookup, you can type in your address and find out exactly which days are your collection days. The Ridgewood Health Department will hold a discussion on Lyme disease and ways that you can protect yourself on Thursday, April 25th from 10:30 to 11:30 in the Youth Lounge. You can register for that event through Community Pass. The Health Department and West Bergen Mental Health Care will be hosting Navigating Neurovergence Techniques and Tools to Support a Child on the Spectrum on April 25th from 6:30 to 7:30, also in the Youth Lounge. There will be a presentation by Barbara Krug, outpatient and school-based therapist from West Bergen Mental Health Care. You can register by calling the Health Department at 201-670-5500, extension 2313. The Chamber of Commerce will host their Spring Fling Sale Days on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or while businesses are open. Stores around town will provide sales both inside and outside their shops. Be ready to shop till you drop. Council chat will take place on Saturday, May 4th, from 9 to 11 a.m. in the caucus room, which is located right across the hall here from the council chambers. Reservations can be made by calling 201-670-5500, extension 2207. Walk-ins are welcome, however, reservations have priority. As a reminder, the 2-day per week irrigation limit is in effect. Odd-numbered addresses for irrigation are to take place on Tuesday and Saturday, and even-numbered addresses on Wednesday and Sunday. No irrigation is allowed on Monday, Thursday, or Friday. The Health Department will be hosting its annual dog rabies clinic at the Graydon parking lot on Wednesday, May 8th, from 6 to 7 p.m. A reminder that license renewals are due before June 30th. To avoid the late fee, contact the Health Department for more information. Touch a Truck Day will take place on Thursday, May 9th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Van Ness Square. Imagine taking a seat behind the wheel of a real police cruiser, climbing aboard a shiny fire truck, exploring up close the fleet of other emergency services and public works vehicles that you've only seen from a distance. As an added bonus, there will be a Safety Town Kiddie Car driving track hosted by the Ridgewood Police Department and Little Ivy Learning Center. Treat your children to a day of hands-on adventure at the Ridgewood Touch a Truck Day 2024. The last day to register to vote for the primary election is May 14th. You can register in the Ridgewood Library lobby from 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. or in the municipal clerk's office during regular business hours. The Health Department, along with Valley Health System, presents The Blues versus Depression on Thursday, May 16th from 10:30 to 11:30 in the Youth Lounge here at Village Hall. You can register for that program through Community Pass as well. Project Pride Planting Day is Sunday, May 19th, beginning at 7:45 a.m. The committee is looking for volunteers. This is a 2 to 3 hour commitment on that morning. Please contact Councilmember Reynolds at lreynolds@ridgewoodnj.net to sign up if you have any questions. And finally, Village Council upcoming meetings. May 1st is a work session. May 8th is our public meeting. May 22nd is a work session, all at 7:30 p.m. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
What was the date of that touch truck, Keith? What was the date of the touch a truck?
Touch a Truck, May 9th. It's a Thursday,
May 9th.
from 9 to 2.
And the Project Pride planting was 7:45 a.m.?
Yes.
Set your alarm.
A.M. I'll be there at like 7:20. You can come early if you want.
Bring coffee.
I did not misspeak on that one, right, Lorraine?
No.
And let's go to council reports. Siobhan?
Sure. So I want to begin and say thank you so much to Keith and everybody who made the bus station happen. Clearly, it's an important building in our central business district, and it's in need of love and attention. I want to say thank you to HPC because they were so helpful in making the decision, at least for me, as to whether we should renovate or look for other options. And to everybody on this council, because we all talked about it, I think it's such a great victory for people in Ridgewood, for our downtown, and for people who commute in, work here. It'll be just much more appealing, welcoming, and I'm very excited, so thank you. In addition to that, Shade Tree has been talking about putting an extra tree in that parking lot, and when it is renovated, it'll have a new neighbor of a paper bark maple, which is apparently a very impressive tree. And just so everyone, we've been talking about this area a lot. One of the trees that's there was a transplanted tree from the old Hudson lot, and now it's going to have a twin. Its original twin, when it transferred, didn't survive, and now that that area is going to be improved, we're going to have 2 paper bark maples, which now Shade Tree has educated me is a pretty impressive tree. I also want to extend some thanks to Tony and everybody in engineering and all the people who made the Shedler House finally have a CO, which is super exciting, and I'm hoping this whole council and the whole community joins me in the discussion of what are we going to put in there that's going to be appropriate for the house, the neighborhood, and the community. And I think it's really exciting, and I hope everybody wrote down the day of the open house, and I hope everybody, 49 people at a time, decide to go in and see what this renovation looks like. So thank you, Keith, and everybody. Last week I had the pleasure of attending the library luncheon through the Ridgewood Public Library with Mayor Vegianos and Pam. Pam and I sat at the same table, and it was a wonderful, wonderful, everything about our library was there. It was books, learning, discussion. Colin McCann was the author, and he co-wrote a book with a woman named Diane Foley. Very curious story. I'm sure Paul's going to talk about it, because as much as I loved the speech, I was sitting, oh, Paul's definitely loving this speech, as was Pam. So thank you to the Ridgewood Library. It was incredibly successful. If you've never been to one of their events, I think everybody should check it out. We're really lucky with what Friends of the Library does and how much they promote discussion and learning in our community. On Friday, we had a meeting with Access, and we had a visit from an organization called Joe I Do, and they are responsible, and their mission is to find kids and young adults who've been placed with meaningful work that fits within their special needs requirement. We're very grateful, and we're going to be taking a field trip to see the operation. If anybody wants to come on that field trip, I know they're also working with police and fire to promote more awareness with our first responders about how an individual response is often required when dealing with the special needs population. I want to take the time to thank Chief Lyons for going to that training and recommending more of our first responders, because that is just so important to the special needs population, our police community, and our community as a whole. On Monday, Access will host, again with CPAC, another sensory-friendly dinner. It's going to be at Lisa's Kitchen this Monday. For anybody who's ever attended these, they're awesome. They're very inclusive, welcoming. It's a great chance to meet the special needs population. It's a great chance for the business on an off night to connect. We lower the lights, we take our inside voices down a couple notches, no yelling, things like that. And it's been really, really great. And I want to thank this full council, Keith, and everybody who's shown up. It's been very meaningful. Last month it was at McMurphy's. We try to keep it going, like, because it was March for St. Patrick's Day, and this Monday it'll be at Lisa's. And then today I had a meeting with Pride. Pride is scheduled for June 1st, and we're going to be, it's been a little far out, so we're going to start promoting it more, and we're looking to create a business partnership with the business community, where Pride will be one day of celebration in the park, but perhaps some of the local merchants want to offer a Pride option of a special on their menu, or a drink, or a product, and we're very grateful to the Guild who attended our meeting today to talk about doing some of that cross-promotion. And then lastly, I want to say thank you to everybody for Sunday. Obviously, we're all going to say the same thing, but it was one of the most vibrant, awesome days in our parks in a while, and everybody was happy. The dogs were happy, the people were happy. Shade Tree gave out 350 whips. We had 2 students who were working tirelessly, and the kids were going up the trees, and it was just an amazing day, and one of those days where you felt really lucky to live in Ridgewood and see that programming. I want to thank Pam, who did such a good job, and at one point really got into the dog parade, and I was like, go Pam. And there was absolutely not one complaint to be had, except the pretzel guy didn't have enough pretzels and they weren't hot enough. So thank you to everybody who was there. It was such an awesome day, and to our staff and business professionals and my Shade Tree Commission. I was very excited with the whole day, so thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan. Evan?
So Pam stole my line, because I was going to complain about the line for the pretzel guy as well. But that was literally the only possible complaint you can have. I thought you put it really well, Siobhan. It was one of those days that makes you just feel how lucky you are, appreciate how lucky you are to live in Ridgewood. One of the other people, by the way, who was also happy, along with everyone else, were the business owners. Because I know I went out for lunch and then coffee, and lots of folks were spilling over into our downtown. So it was a win-win across the board. I will say that my disappointment at the line for the pretzel guy was made up for by the pickle guy, who was quite good. So thank you to everyone who had a hand in that. Definitely want to thank Nancy, Parks and Rec, Ridgewood Water had a great showing. The police, as always, were keeping us safe. Just fantastic all around. To everyone who's celebrating, want to wish everyone a happy Passover. On that note, want to thank the mayor for covering me at library last night, because I was celebrating the second night of Passover, so thank you, Paul, for stepping up and covering library for me. And then finally, just want to, again, echo all the kind words we're saying really about Keith's leadership on the bus station piece. This is one of those things that doesn't get a lot of attention. It's not really controversial. It's not really super exciting. It's just really basic, competent, good government. The fact that we're going to, rehabilitate a historic bus station that's an eyesore now, we're doing so without tapping into Ridgewood money, is really, again, boring, good, competent government. I look forward to seeing, the new station there. I look forward to seeing the rehabilitation. And I think it's going to be great right along that area and really clean it up. So, Keith, thank you for doing what you do and getting that done.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you. Lorraine?
Thank you. So Citizen Safety Advisory Committee met last Thursday, and leading up to Thursday, we had a couple of residents kind of contact us and ask us about the signs on their street where there's no parking 9 to 3 or no parking from 8 to 9:30 and 1 to 2:30. They realized, they were put there for a reason, maybe for the high schoolers not to park there, or maybe for hospital staff not to park there. So there's questions about, now that the hospital has moved and now that the high school has changed their hours, could there be a tweaking of the signs to allow the residents who live there to be able to park in front of their house and not be so restrictive? So Siobhan and I met with one of the people that were asking for a change, and Siobhan has asked Chief Lyons to pull all the ordinances, which he did. We're going to go over it in the next couple of weeks and, move on from there. Who knows if they'll get changed? Maybe, they still need to be the hours that they are, but, certain people are saying now that more people are working from home, and if somebody else has to leave the house and they can't park on the street, they got to do a juggling act if they have a narrow driveway. So it's just something to look at. So that was a big topic of conversation at the CSAC meeting. So we'll follow up with that next month. I just wanted to say, I wanted to let a couple residents know, somebody had requested that we get mirrors in the pedestrian tunnel at the train station. And I want to thank Keith for that. It was a back and forth for a while, but finally we have word that the mirrors are on order, and we will now have mirrors in the pedestrian tunnel, and I do think it will be much safer. It just makes sense to be able to see if somebody's walking a dog coming around the corner, or somebody with a stroller. It's just good to know. I do want to give clarification to the water restrictions. Everything Keith said is correct, except if you do have a smart controller and you get a permit, and you have to do this every year at the water department, you have to fill out something and, prove that you have a smart controller, you are allowed to water on other days than just your odd and even. It's still the same hours. I think it's 2 a.m. to 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.?
3 to 7.
3 to 7.
If you have an in-ground.
In-ground, but the smart controller would all be in-ground. So just want to confirm that for people. And again, reiterate Project Pride Planting Day, May 19th. We could use all the help we can get. So please email me at lreynolds@ridgewoodnj.net if you want to help. It's really a lot of fun. It's work, but it is a lot of fun. You'll get to meet some people, and after doing this for a few years, I know that there are certain people that come back every year because they want to talk to the people that they've met, and it's very nice. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. Pam?
Well, as to the Daffodil Festival and Earth Day Fair, which was such a joyous event, I wanted to tell you that the student winners of the art contest were Raj, a 6th grader at GW, second place was Olivia, a 3rd grader at Ridge School, and 3rd place was Theo, a 3rd grader at Travell School. You can also see all the submissions in the windows this week of World Flats at the corner of Walnut and East Ridgewood Avenue, and also on Chestnut Street in between Franklin and East Ridgewood Avenue. There's an empty storefront there, and many of the submissions are exhibited there, especially on the doors. Frank Mortimer's daughters are on Chestnut Street. The theme was what Earth Day means to me, and what the kids came up with was just delightful. And I was very pleased to be the judge along with an artist, Tori Scholler. And she did a small painting, which the first prize winner got. And also thank you for the second and third prizes from Deeply Rooted. They were garden packs. And that's not all that Green Ridgewood is doing. We also have the students from the International and Public Affairs School at Columbia University presenting here at Village Council on May 1st. They've done a lot of research, and their report is almost finalized, and they have several recommendations for Ridgewood on decarbonization and how to mitigate flooding. So that's going to be a very interesting report. Let's see. And I also wanted to let you know that the recycling department has openings in the food waste recycling program. It started out as a pilot project for 100 families, and you can take your kitchen scraps, put them in a bucket that the village supplies, and bring your kitchen scraps down to the recycling center, and the village has a vendor that takes that stuff and makes it into compost. So it's not going into landfill, which is just great because all that stuff emits a lot of methane as it breaks down. And so you're really helping keep stuff out of landfill. And so they have openings. If you're interested in applying, you can apply online. It's a great program. I've been doing it, and it really lightens the amount of garbage you have to take out to the trucks. Also, the Open Space Committee is kicking off its Park Walks program. This season we have 10 Park Walks happening, and this Saturday, Dave Sales is conducting the tour of the Dunham Trail. We'll meet rain or shine at 10 o'clock at the bridge on Spring Avenue between South Irving and Brookside. And I wanted to thank Siobhan also for nudging the governor's office on the bus station. Yep. I don't think it would have happened without your input. That's all I have.
Thanks, Pam. And I'm going to run through my stuff pretty quickly, but I'm going to start with Zisen Pesach to everyone celebrating Passover this holiday season. Next, I am also going to thank Siobhan for her work on the bus station. She was truly the catalyst on this, and I am always amazed at her energy and her ideas. She always has something good perking to the top. The library luncheon, I was stunned when I went there. It was my first time. It was lovely, wonderful, enormous. The people who love this library are wonderful. And it was an absolutely beautiful event at Seasons. Colin McCullum, on his new book, I will just tell you that this is a story of forgiveness that will make your jaw drop and that we should all aspire to. And I urge you to read this book. Sensory-friendly dinner. One of the many reasons you gotta love living in this town. And another of the many reasons, the Daffodil Festival, again, you've heard me say it, I'll keep saying it, greatest town in America. And with that, I will go to my report on the Health Department and the Stigma-Free Committee have put together and formulated a bunch of programs that I think you'll all find interesting. On April 25th, Understanding Lyme Disease and How to Prevent It at 10:30 a.m. at Village Hall as we come into Lyme disease season. Also on April 25th, Navigating Neurodivergence, Techniques and Tools to Support a Child on the Spectrum. and that's at 6:30 p.m. at Village Hall, sponsored by West Bergen Mental Health. On May 7th, supporting teens in reducing their stress, parens, and hours, at 6:30 p.m. at BF Middle School. On May 8th, rabies clinic for dog owners at 6 p.m. at the Graden Pool parking lot. May 14th, everything you need to know about a dog's body language, which I definitely need to know more about that. At 7 p.m. at the library auditorium, and all information on registration and finding out more about it can be found on the village website. And with that, we will move on. Oh, we have more.
Yeah, I thought you might want to give the name of the book that Colin McCullum wrote. It's American Mother.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. American Mother, it is, like I said, a story of forgiveness that will just make you sit back and take stock.
And then I knew there was something else that Green Ridge was doing, and it is Slow-Mo May. You can pick this, you can register online at slowmomayridgewood.org, or you can stop by the stable and sign up there. You can pick up your sign at the library or the stable, and this starts May 1st.
Anybody else have any addenda to their council reports? Seeing none, we will move on to our regular agenda. Keith?
Okay, Mayor, this evening we have no items under Ridgewood Water and no items under parking. So we're going to move on to budget. The first item is a memorandum from village engineer, and this is with regard to train station coffee bar. We would like to try to fill that space with a concession that existed there pre-COVID. This has gone out to bid on 3 occasions. The village received no bids during any of those endeavors. However, at this point, we are under NJSA 40A:11-5 able to negotiate with a potential vendor, and I am pleased to report tonight that we have engaged with Boxcar. And at this point, if I could ask Dylan to zoom in Tyler, who's representing Boxcar. You'll see on page 3 of this item in your packet what Boxcar is all about, little history of the company. Tyler's going to expand on that a little bit. Here comes Dylan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing well. We also have Joe here.
And Tyler, and I'll let Tyler run the show tonight, but Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the Village Council, thank you so much for having us this evening. Know your time is valuable. Here to answer any questions you have about Boxcar. Broadly, 30,000-foot view here. We have been serving suburbs throughout New Jersey, Connecticut, and a couple outside Boston for 8 years now with commuter parking, commuter bus service. And during the pandemic, in order to stay alive, we got into a whole host of other things. We did socially distanced Santa Claus appointments, garbage can cleaning, grill cleaning, whatever we could do. And we found that we offered a lot of value to our customers who were very short on time. They kind of wanted a good experience, and they were willing to pay for it. So we hustled, and that's generally what we offer. When it comes to why we think we could do a good job with the kiosk or the concession in the train station, Westfield similarly went out to bid 3 times for their train station kiosk, which is located on the platform in their historic train station, and they didn't receive any bidders. And in 2021, we took that over, and we've been doing a decent job, I think. We offer coffee, sundries, and some other services to those commuters there. And we think we've kind of cracked the nut on how to make it as efficient as possible, leverage the fact that it is a high-trust customer base that can kind of serve themselves, help themselves, and make sure that they get billed later without having to wait in line and pay for a card or wait for somebody to make their coffee or prepare their to-go items. And so we did put together and submitted, which has probably been circulated, I think just a 2-page proposal overview. And Tyler is really running point on this, but we're both available for questions. And thanks again for the time.
So Joe, if I may, just to give the council a little history here. So Chris Rudershauser, Heather Maylander, who actually introduced me to Joe initially, and I met with he and his team out at the train station. We showed them the space. They were interested. Obviously, that's why they're here tonight. But Joe, can you just give the council and the public just a little background on how you see the space evolving if Boxcar is engaged to provide this service at the train station, and also what you would be providing as part of the concession?
Right, so day one is coffee, pine bars, croissants, muffins from local bakeries, things like that. But what we really view this as is a space where small businesses can leverage this little piece of real estate that just happens to have an amazing amount of foot traffic. They can also leverage our technology, and they can provide their services in a really convenient waypoint for all of these commuters. So we would like people to be able to drop off their dry cleaning at our concession, and for a local dry cleaner, and maybe they could choose whichever one they like to support, takes it back to their takes it back to their house, or they need their shirt tailored, or maybe they say, hey, would you mind sending my spouse flowers today? And we just jot down their name. We already have their address saved in Boxcar system, most likely, and we say, yeah, how about a $80 bouquet? Great. And we work with a local florist to get those flowers there. So it'll certainly be convenient for commuters who want coffee or sundries or a snack on the way into work, but more so, we think this is the most valuable real estate in town, to a degree, right? It is where people are walking through all the time, and a combination of our growing network, the customer base that's there, and our technology and our general concierge service should be able to make it so that this waypoint can not just be leveraged for selling coffee and protein bars, but really as a concierge to interact with your town without having to drive a few blocks or make an extra phone call during the day.
If this is successful, you talked about the fact that this could even evolve to, a dry cleaning drop-off and that type of thing as well, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. So dry cleaning drop-off is one of those tailor-made ones that it just happens to be so it's inconvenient enough that you drive around. Everybody knows we drive around with dry cleaning in our car for 4 days, and then we finally get to the dry cleaner. We find some time to drop it off. So the idea that, well, I'm going in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays to work anyway. I can just go in. I can drop it off. QR code on the bag gets scanned, billed right through Boxcar. The dry cleaner is able to access, the drop-off address, and it's waiting at your door, that night or the next day.
So can I ask, would the space be open, and I'm having trouble sort of envisioning it, this would be the open space in the entire, in the entire train station, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I assume this will be available to everyone, not just Boxcar customers, right?
No, it would be accessible to everyone who comes in.
Okay.
To all foot traffic. Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about the hours for Councilman White?
Could I just say, because we had this in some of the pre-discussions, so there's train station west, train station east. So we're talking train station west on the other side by Wilsey Square.
New York bound.
So it's outbound. So, where flows used to be, where I used to go get that area. Because sometimes when we talk about the train station, because we've had so much vacancy throughout the whole area.
That's where the concession stand used to be, and where the same side that goes into New York
Yeah,
City.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Joe, can you just speak to the hours of operation that you envision?
Absolutely. So I'll pass it over to Tyler. He put together the proposal, and he's got and he said, if you want to pull it up, Tyler, I don't know what the council and the mayor would like, but you can talk through the hours, Tyler, that we would start with.
Perfect. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Village Council. Really excited to partner with you guys. So as Joe mentioned, we've been operating in New Jersey since 2017, 50,000 users, 600,000 bus trips, myriad other services, really driven on by that pandemic experience. And community is really at the center of what we do. So, we're operating the kiosk, as you mentioned, in Westfield, over 200 customers per month, greeting everyone with a friendly smile and a professional touch every morning. So as mentioned, it is the West New York side New York-bound side of the train station that we'd be excited to operate in, bringing in freshly ground coffee beans from someone like American Bulldog right across the street. Really giving it a local touch. So initially, I believe we'd be looking to operate Monday through Friday in the mornings, and really expand to meet really just what the customer desires. So we're there to serve the community and give them what they need. So initially starting out Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday.
45 to 9:45 is our
Yes.
initial launch plan.
Tyler, can you just repeat what Joe said? He's a little more difficult to hear than you are on the Zoom.
Sorry.
I believe you said 5:45 to 9:30.
9:45.
9 to 9:45. Yes.
Okay. Tyler, anything else?
Happy to answer any questions you have.
So just real quickly to review the terms, which is at the bottom of the third page of this item. $600 per month, paid monthly. 2 years with 2 options to extend, each with a $100 a month lease increase for an additional 2 years. Utilities would be included in the monthly rent, and Boxcar would be providing insurance.
Yes, as well as all health and safety inspections.
Can you tell us about parking?
So I think the request, Joe, if you could just confirm this for me, when you spoke to Heather, would be that there would be 1 parking space for the employee that would be there on those days?
Yes, that would be important for that employee. We'd be looking to hire somebody from Ridgewood. The person that we hired from Westfield to work the Westfield one happened to be able to walk to the train station, but we can't count on that.
And that would be consistent with the previous leasee? They had 1 parking space at the train station. That's what Heather advised me of.
And does it open up after 10 o'clock for other people to park there?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a safe bet.
Well, I wanted to say, I really appreciate that you're using Bulldog Coffee and that your plan is to get the food items from local vendors, because I think that really does support our businesses.
So let me just say, I'm super supportive of this. I think it probably is a little low on the rent side, but honestly, I just want to get the space used, and I want a service provided to the citizens, and this seems like I'm absolutely happy with those terms for the most part. And by the way, for those of you at home, for us commuters, so Boxcar is sort of like a luxury bus service that commutes in town and drops people off along Midtown. I guess my only sort of comments, and not so much questions, although one question. The first is I would just ask Keith that when we draft the contract, that there be something about Boxcar keeping the space in good order. I know they said they're going to bring in chairs and such. I just want to make sure over the course of several years it doesn't get flimsy, because if it's private property, I'm not sure we can remove it without them. So I would like a clause in there saying that they'll keep, whatever they bring in will be kept in good order. Not that I doubt Boxcar, I have nothing but good intentions, but the lawyer in me is getting the better of me.
Of course.
Also, I see here that we're providing them free utilities. Again, no issue, but perhaps a clause that does say, fair and reasonable use. Just I want to make sure that if for some reason the utility bills shoot up or they're doing something they shouldn't be, that we have recourse there. But again, I don't expect any of this. I guess my only question is, since they're going to make the space nice, obviously if you were in a private restaurant and you had folks that were coming in and overstaying their welcome, the proprietor could kick them out. Since this is technically a public space, well, it's not technically, it is a public space. If we had people in there who were disruptive, not commuters, folks who were just, planting themselves down and taking up, the seating for hours at a time until they close, do we have any recourse to remove them?
It would be through the police department,
but it's public property, right? So if somebody decides to come in and just sort of sit down on one of the comfy chairs and just decides basically to take a nap for 3 hours, do we have any recourse to remove them because it's a public, it's a public space?
And I disagree with you that it's a public space at that point, because we're renting it out to a private business.
I guess maybe that's a question for Matt. Would they have the ability to evict people if folks are taking advantage of the
With
space?
the tenant letting us know that they are, somebody is either being disruptive or certainly not there for the purpose of utilizing their facility and want assistance with regard to the removal, police department would show up and take care of it.
So they could treat it as a private space for that purpose?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay, then I'm
Because the
good.
tenant will have those rights of possession with regard to it, so that's
Okay,
the important
because, so
part.
the contract will say it's not just the stand then that they're renting.
They're gonna be, yeah, they're
It's the
gonna be
whole
running
space
it,
they're getting.
they're gonna be maintaining it, they're gonna be running it, so that, in that regard, they'll be responsible for that. So that's part of what their obligation's going to be.
And then on times when they're not, I mean, people still have access to the station then when, after 9:30 though, of course.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
The concession will just be closed at that point.
right, okay. Again, wonderful idea. Let's get them in there. I think this is great.
Yeah, and listen, I know that not only on this, but on the taxi stand as well, I think, there was some disappointment with, the bidding and how much interest there was. But I think everyone sort of resolved themselves, at least in my individual conversations with the council members, that really occupying the space has become priority one. We've gone out to bid multiple times on both of these spaces. This is where we've landed. And I think right now, this will just be a significant improvement and a better experience for the folks who are commuting to be able to have these amenities in that space. And then as it grows, maybe there's the potential for, increased rent in the future.
I'm not at all disappointed. I mean, I think this is great. I'm very excited about it. I think, when Evan and I took our seat, we talked about assets that were not generating any revenue, and not only was this one vacant, but it's failed to provide a service. And commuting is hard. It is very hard, especially when you have young kids, and these amenities make it very attractive for a commuting population. I've told the story, but I'll tell it again. When I was canvassing for the election, I spent 10 days on that platform, and I would go there at like 5:15, 5:30, and I'd have coffee, and every day I felt bad because no one could have coffee. So by the second day, I stopped getting my own coffee, and I thought, wow, this is so different from when my kids were little. Coffee was part of my commute. The amenity-rich part of it is so attractive. I think it's great, and I think it's more revenue than we've been getting. We've been getting zero, and there's risk with that because vacancy is probably more likely if it's empty. And I think it's great, and I look forward to it. And like Pam, I love the local approach, and I love the Bulldog coffee, and I'm hoping you partner with a local bakery, which we have tons of. Good luck making that choice. And I just think it's a wonderful thing for this council, for the revenue. And if you're a commuter, I think it's an amenity that is just something people will be excited about and make it more attractive for, commuters to go get your coffee, get your dry cleaning. I mean, these are great things that when my kids were little didn't exist, and I think it's going to be really well received. And I mean, Evan, you're the commuter here, right? It's such a luxury. It's going to be great.
It's fantastic, yeah.
So I was curious about the utilities as well. Does anybody know what the utilities would be for a typical month, what they used to be?
So you have to remember that they will not be the only user of this. Transit has a space there, social services has a space there, and Boxcar would potentially have a space there.
So
I don't know.
the village pays for it
Yeah,
all.
I don't know how we would break that out because
Right.
it's all on one meter.
No, agreed. Okay, I didn't know that. And then, one person do you think one person can handle it? Like, I don't know, if you have like 8 or 10 people gonna grab a train and they wanna get coffee, are they all gonna be able to get what they want and get on the train on time with
So
one
that's a great
employee?
question, and it gives me a brief opportunity to talk about how we do this. So in 50 years ago, you might go to a restaurant and say, put it on my bill and get a handwritten tab at the end of the month that you'd pay off. That is kind of how we do it here, because it is the same people for the most part who are in their habits. They're commuters, they live in town, or they commute from the town, and it doesn't take long for this person to recognize them by face. But even then, once you've signed up for a Boxcar account, and we're always happy to not, you don't have to pay through Boxcar, but if you do have a Boxcar account, you walk up and you say, hey, Kevin, it's me, Heather Melander, and just grabbing a medium coffee and a Kind bar. And it's all out there. You're not asking for anything. So you're grabbing it, he's jotting it down real fast. And yes, as you said, there's 10, 20 people all in the last 2 minutes right before the train leaves. They're all helping themselves. They're jumping on the train, and he's jotted down 15 names. And then before the next train comes, or sometimes at the end of the commuting day, he goes into Boxcar and he charges them. So you grab a coffee, he knows you by face, generally after a little while, and you get on the train, and then later at 11 o'clock a.m., you see a $3.75 charge, email from Boxcar. So that's the way that we've kind of leveraged the fact that this is a high trust community, a high trust environment, and use technology to make it as seamless as possible. So we would love for it to require 2 people because it means that we're that busy, but right now the plan is to hire somebody Monday through Thursday as our main person and hire 1 person on Fridays, which is really light. Almost nobody comes in on Fridays, but at least that person is trained up. And when the person who works Monday through Thursday wants to go on vacation or get sick, that person on Friday is trained up and they work Monday through Thursday.
So does the customer pour their own coffee and grab their own muffin or whatever and say, hey, I got a coffee and a muffin, and walk out the door? How does that work?
Correct. Yep. So the coffee's brewed, put into carafes that you press down. So you grab the small or the large cup, you press down fill it up, and all the kind bar, everything is facing the customer. And I don't think Ridgewood, has any difference from Westfield. We've never had any problems with people grabbing stuff and running away or anything like that. So.
Okay. All right. And then the other question is, I'm a little confused because here it says provides transportation. So is that going to be part of this? Do you provide transportation?
Just as a background on our company, we do run buses in and out of New York City. So I think that was probably in the background component of our.
That exists already in the village?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with
But it
Boxcar.
won't exist out of this location, or?
Joe, I don't know, will your locations change from how they exist
No.
today?
Taxi stand, it is. And if we renovate, if the state of New Jersey is nice enough to renovate a bus depot, maybe we'll add that as a pickup location as well.
There you go.
With coffee.
Thank you.
Lorraine, I'm assuming, so I'm pretty familiar with the service. I actually have your app on my phone right now. Obviously, for them, it's also a way to promote their brand and to hopefully get more people to take their bus service, which is, hey, fine by me. So I think that's the sort of backstory on some of this. Right. But like I said, it's a very cool concept, and I don't know if we're allowed to endorse businesses. I'm not endorsing any business, but it's sort of high-end busing that you could take as a commuter, and you reserve your seat, and it drops off along Midtown. And so I guess they see this presumably as a way to grow their brand and to attract more folks to the service. At the same time, we obviously get a benefit for our other commuters. So again, that's why I'm so supportive of it.
Right. And the other thing I'll say is this is one of the points that I put together when I sort of mapped out our to-do list last fall. When I met with each of the council members individually last summer, everybody in some way, shape, or form brought up commuter experience. So for me, it was pushing the DOT to make the improvements at the Route 17 park and ride. It was occupying the taxi stand. It was occupying the concession at the train station, and then rehabbing the bus station. And I think once we're able to check off all 4 of those off the list, you're going to see a significant improvement in commuter experience here in the village, whether it's local or whether it's to Manhattan or whatever it happens to be. But all 3 of your transit hubs, the bus station, the park and ride, and the train station, will have been improved.
I would like to say one of the amenities that happens to be there now is the little library, and that's really nice, and I hope it can remain.
Yes. We're going to fill it with New Jersey historical train books, as that's my passion. So sorry, we're going to add a couple books to it from our own library.
Joe and Tyler, I was there at your grand opening.
That's right.
And I was on that bus. And I am not the least bit concerned that down the road the chairs will be flimsy, because that's just not what you do. In terms of the amount of money that the village is receiving, that is the real estate market right now. And we didn't get a lot of bids. Oh, that's right, we didn't get any other bids. So that's what it's worth. And so we are happy that you are providing a wonderful service to our village residents who do commute, of which there are many, who I'm sure have been missing a cup of coffee, a Danish in the morning. So I think that this is really, really terrific. Again, just another nice thing for our residents. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe and Tyler.
Thank you. We'll see you all at our next ribbon cutting then. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So consensus from the council to move forward with confirming the negotiation and issuing the
I
award.
forgot one last question. If customers sign up with Boxcar, is there any kind of surcharge? Or they pay, if they sign up with you or not, do they pay the same exact amount?
No, they do get a discount if they sign up for Boxcar.
Oh, they get a discount.
That's correct.
I like that.
It's in the right direction. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to 8C2 on the agenda. This is the award of contract for our crossing guard services for the Ridgewood Police Department. We took bids on March 26th at 11 a.m. This would be for a one-year period with the ability to renew for a second year. There were 3 registered plan holders that picked up. However, we received only one bid package back. It's All Cities Management Services who have been providing the service successfully to the village for the past 8 years. All Cities quoted the village $2,573 for each day they provide crossing guard services to 31 morning and 31 afternoon crossing posts. Resolution for the village council's consideration is attached for the next school year.
I just had, maybe I missed it. I didn't see anywhere what the cost was last year.
That was my question, too.
I can pull that for you. I didn't pull that number, but I can.
If it
Yeah,
stayed
I can get that from Bob,
stable,
and I
went
can
up?
send it to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Any objections on this?
No.
No.
Okay.
Again, how many other bidders?
No.
That's what I thought.
Seems to be the theme.
Right. So we're
Next
good.
item 3 under budget is Department of Parks proposal for tree irrigation services throughout the village. On Wednesday, March 27th, we received bids. There were 2 registered plan holders. The village received 1 bid back. The low bidder and only bidder was for $108,500. Low bid was from Downs Tree Service of Hawthorne, New Jersey, in that amount. Copy of the proposal is attached. This will be funded through the 2024 capital budget, which is currently in the approval process, and Chris and Nan are recommending the award.
I'm going to recuse myself from discussion on this matter.
So I have the same question that Lorraine just asked. What did we pay last year, and is this significantly more?
I'll get that.
Okay.
Okay, the next is from our IT department, Director Hanson. This is to renew our contract with Spatial Data Logic, which is a software that the village uses across departments. Total amount $54,200. This impacts the building department, the tax assessor's office, the health department, the municipal clerk's office, the engineering department, and the police department. Any questions about that? Dylan's here to answer if you have any.
No, I just want to say that when we were doing the demo, Spatial Data Logic has a lot of power within. I mean, I want to say you may be hearing more about it because it can help with Oprahs and applications for the building department because it is so content rich. And if you ever get a chance to look at it, we had it already, you know, and then they wanted to be a layer and we met with them. It's really interesting, and it's a piece of software that we've owned, and now we're going to upgrade, and it has a lot more capabilities. So I just want everyone to keep that in their minds while we're talking about it, and it's here. It's very, like, you can look up a neighbor, see if they have a dog license. You can look up and see if their building permits have been closed. So it's something, it's technology that I think we could really use in our next step for improving efficiencies here in the building. And I want to say thank you to Dylan, because he always is patient with all my questions on this one. And he answered, the communications team had a lot of questions as well. But it's a wonderful tool, and I think we'll hear more about it from the communications side.
Any questions? Okay, next item is a memorandum from Lieutenant Chuck of the Ridgewood Police Department requesting for the purchase of tri-band radios for our police vehicles. Regional Communications for the purchase of 7 tri-band Motorola mobile radios for the use of police cars. It's from a capital account not to exceed $64,872.50. These radios will be installed in the vehicles assigned to the patrol division as well as the detective and administrative vehicles. They will be replacing broken or failing radios as well as adding new radios to incoming vehicles. This new technology will allow us to better communicate with towns and county agencies around us, and it's through a state contract.
I'm assuming maybe Pam, there's a typo on the amount. Okay. Oh, on the amount, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never,
It's got two.
it's
Oh, on the resolution.
64872.50.
Wow.
And actually, it must have been copied and pasted into the resolution too, because it's
I think
it's on
Lorraine
the
is
second
starting
page
to
too.
stand Pam up. I like it.
Wow.
So Eileen, if you could
You okay,
eliminate
Pam?
the 2 zeros at
Good?
the end there.
Okay, I missed that.
What a mess.
Wow. And you had to point that out. Pam didn't feel badly enough before.
Eileen, I'll bring you a red pen in the morning, okay? Okay, the next item on the agenda, item 6, is a memorandum from Chris Rudeshauser. This is actually a rescind and replace. This has to do with the village's Bel Air sanitary pump station. We've experienced a number of breakdowns there, especially during flooding events. Previously, the council had issued or approved a resolution awarding a contract to National Water Main. However, it was then discovered that they did not have a valid contract, a current contract, under the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission Cooperative Purchasing Program. So we're looking to replace that work effort with Rapid Pump and Meter, who do have a current contract under the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission Cooperative Purchasing Program. Any questions on that?
Good.
Good. Okay. Similar item for number 7. This is North Jersey Wastewater Cooperative Pricing System through Passaic Valley Sewage Commission. This again is a rescind and replace. There was originally a contract awarded to Universal Electric Motor Repair for the mixers at the pump station, at the water pollution control facility. Unfortunately, Universal was unable to meet the terms and conditions of the contract, so we did receive a quote from Rapid Pump, which is listed here. They are looking to actually replace the sludge digester mixer for $212,575. So we're going to rescind the contract with Universal Electric Motor, and we are going to replace that with the purchase of a new sludge digester mixer with Rapid Pump. Any questions? Okay. Next on the agenda is the award of professional services contract for the continued feasibility study for the Special Improvement District. This would cover Phase 2, and for a better description of that, I'm going to turn it over to the Deputy Mayor.
Yes, we are in the middle of Phase 1. I passed out to all of you a description of the 3 phases to put the SID together. And under Phase 1, we have, the steering committee has come up with a mission statement, priorities, and we are discussing now the boundaries. And that's about number 8, and you'll see we still have up to 13 to go. But it is time for us to allocate funds for Phase 2. Phase 2 will basically be outreach to the business community and persuading them that a SID is in their best interest. And so you can see that it's finalizing the consensus, and we set up a hearing, a public hearing, not public, it is for the business community. Explaining what the feasibility study was and what the terms would be and what the benefits of a special improvement district can be. What are the deliverables, and how the assessments will work, all that sort of thing. So we did, during the budget process, agree to Phase 2 funding in the amount of $17,000. So I would ask that you all approve this.
So it says task 1 and 2 was 17,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, the tasks are different from the phases.
Okay.
What I handed you is a little easier to understand.
Okay.
And it really does break down what Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 are.
So Phase 2 is 17,000. What was Phase 1?
Also 17,000, and then the third phase is 14,000.
So I have a question, because I thought that a SID was something that the businesses pay for.
Yes, that is
Well,
exactly
what's
what
the
it will be. It is the property owners are assessed at a certain amount,
Okay.
and each year, the village collects that amount and then distributes funds to the DMC. That's the corporation that would be set up to administer the SID.
But it's the village that's going to put out $48,000 first for all these phases, and we,
This
you
is
know.
funding the consultant.
Right.
Who's taking us
So-
through this. Whether the village wants to put in seed money for the SID, we haven't approached that question.
Yeah, this payment is for the initial work that's being done to determine the interest, the parameters of what the deliverables are going to be, the boundaries and all that work.
Right, so
And
we could spend 48,000,
we have
and
to
then the
spend 48,000
businesses
to get
say,
that.
we're not interested, and, That's it.
Businesses could say that, yes, I could
Yeah,
have.
you would know that at the end of phase 2,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So.
So if the business community decided not to pursue this, there would not be a phase 3.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Is this typically how it's done in other towns, that the town pays for the initial, consultant
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, in general, yes. I mean, you
There's a
could-
number of towns in New Jersey that have established SIDs, and they've all gone through this process. This is kind of designed by the statute, so.
Okay.
You don't have to have a consultant, but it's a detailed procedure that that he's leading us through. I don't know that we would have the expertise to do this on our own.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, item 9 is the aforesaid contract award to Suburban Consulting Engineering for the wetlands delineation and LOI presence absence application at the Shedler property.
I just want to say, because we went so quickly, thank you, Pam, and to your committee. I know it's a lot, and I think you did such a good job, and the explanation was super helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
I have a question on, are we now on Suburban? Okay, so this is 10,800,
Yes.
and if we had the DEP do it, it would be 0?
I don't know if there's a cost with the DEP. What I can tell you is that the queue, as it's been explained to me, is 6 to 8 months. And, to wait that long, I think is going to hold up any next steps. I will tell you that this being complete will not hold up the hearing before the Historic Sites Council. I actually asked that question on a call this morning. So this is something that can come after that. So we do have some time on this, but I don't know if 6 to 8 months is a time period that the council would want to delay that part of it.
Is there any possibility, I just don't want this coming back and saying, oh, we need another $5,000, or we
No, I'm confident in Suburban. To be honest with you, they haven't marked up anything as far as change orders go thus far. So I'm confident in this quote based on our experience thus far.
It also is consistent with the way DEP regulates things in general. If you wanted to know what contamination was under some property, they would require you to go out and hire an LSRP, a licensed soil remediation professional, right? So they're farming out those duties anyway, just in general.
I mean, I think.
And I do want to say too, this was something that the community requested, just like the archaeological study through Richard Grubb Associates, was really something that was an ask of the neighbors in that area around the park. So this would be expediting their request, just as we're trying to expedite the archaeological piece of this endeavor as well.
I mean, I feel very comfortable with it. To be honest, when we went through the checklist, and I know Evan I'm a little surprised it wasn't done earlier, given the stuff with the house and the investment. It seems like it was a box that should have been checked earlier. And, you know, the residents have asked about it, and we should move forward with it. And it's just surprising that we've invested $2.6 million and we didn't do it earlier.
We good?
Good.
Okay. The next item, which is number 10, is the proposal for technical planning assistance from the Army Corps of Engineers. As I reported out at previous meetings, when we met with the Army Corps, they indicated that they had 2 programs that the village could pursue. One was really a short to medium-term planning process, which would have a much quicker turnaround. The other would be a long-term study that would require federal appropriations, not only for the study, but also for any work effort, physical work effort that we would undertake. This is for the former, so this has to do with the medium and short-term planning. I will tell you that although Heather's memorandum indicates that the village would pay for 50% of any of these endeavors, I have since confirmed that it does not necessarily need to be the village. It just needs to be a non-federal share partner. So that could very well be the DEP, it could be DCA, it could be a state agency. Depending on the effect in other municipalities, it could also, funding could also come from the county. I don't know that Bergen County has done that in the past. I can tell you that Somerset County has done that extensively. So I don't want the council to feel that we are on the hook for anything. This just allows us to take this to the next level with the Army Corps of Engineers. And obviously, we would have the ability to accept or deny any type of project that we would want to move forward with moving forward. And at that time, we would decide if we were going to have any skin in the game as far as funding.
Do we have a guesstimate on what this cost could be or a range?
No, because we don't know what the projects are yet.
Got it.
So this is engaging them to take this discussion to the next level. Obviously, that community meeting that we'll be hosting on June 17th will sort of be the kickoff to this. I also think it's important that the Army Corps come in and explain essentially both programs that are available, the short, midterm planning and then the long-term planning. So this will just have that engagement set up and ready to go before we meet with the community on June 17th.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Next issue is the shared service agreement with Ho-Ho-Kus for use of the styrofoam condenser. Just so you know, after this shared service, we're probably tapped out on municipalities that could access this. As a matter of fact, I think we were probably tapped out before Ho-Ho-Kus, but being that they're a neighbor, small community right next door, we're gonna extend this to them as well.
How many municipalities are we sharing this service
I
with?
think after them, it'll be 5.
And kudos to Sean Hamlin,
This is
who
great.
put this together. This is something that I know I've spoken to the council and to Keith about quite a bit, which is shared services, which is a way that we can create revenue to keep our taxes from rising as quickly. So this is just a great thing.
It's literally good for the environment and good financially. There's
It's
just
a
win-win.
it's a win-win all the way around. Sean, thank you so much.
Number 12 on.
I just got a question.
Yep,
So
sure.
the communities, they don't pay anything to us? It's what we make off of what they drop off? Is that how we make money?
Yes, and everybody has a different way of doing it. Some have drop-offs in their municipalities, then they bring the material to us. Some do pickups, so there's, everybody sort of has their own à la carte way of actually getting the styrofoam to our recycling center.
Okay.
Okay? All right,
But
and
they supply the labor, right?
Yes.
It's their people who have to feed the machine, as I recall.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then item 12 is acceptance of additional grant funding from the New Jersey Department of Transportation to approve modification number 2 to the federal aid agreement for the Safe Routes to School grant. So as we announced at a prior council meeting, we've received 2 grants, one from the federal government and one through the state government for the Safe Routes to School program. This is just an administrative process in order to accept the modification, and it'll allocate the $142,970.48 to NV5, which was already approved, that contract by the council at a previous meeting.
And what specifically are we using this money for, Keith?
To design the sidewalk projects on the 5 or 6 designated streets through the Safe Routes to School program. And this grant application goes back to 2016, and now we're pressing the gas to get it done.
Great, thanks.
All right. Okay, at this time, under policy, I'd like to ask Dylan to allow John Barry, our village planner, to participate via Zoom to discuss the exclusionary zoning ordinance that's before the council tonight. And while we're waiting for John, if everybody wants to indulge me, we'll just do operations as John zooms in. Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
So under operations, we were asked to hold over the discussion on the establishment of stop signs at Windermere Avenue and Pershing Avenue. We have a supplementary memorandum from Sergeant Ray Torino on this matter. There was also a map left at your place tonight, which was requested by the council, that indicates the placement of the stop signs and the stop bars in the roadway. And there was also accident data that was supplied from the police department to help the council make this decision.
So I have a question. Because in the memo, it says for a 5-year period, there were no reported motor vehicle crashes within the intersection. And then tonight, we received, are these motor vehicle accidents?
Yeah, what is this? This one?
So these are calls in that proximity.
Okay.
I
Calls, but not because there was an accident? Calls for,
not everyone is an accident.
okay.
Some of it's some of it's traffic, motor vehicle. You can see the delineation in the call type in the fourth column.
Yeah, if it says MV, that's going to be motor vehicle.
Right. So I don't necessarily think this was given to us by the chief to just delineate accident data. I think it was also for motor vehicle stops. So theoretically, someone may have blown the yield sign, which I think is the genesis of this resident complaint asking for the stop signs, and that motor vehicle stop would be delineated in this report.
So originally, I think when this came to us, we were told there were going to be 3 stop signs. But from this latest picture, it looks like just 2. Is that correct?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but are there not 3 yield signs now?
There are 3 yields, and I think.
Yeah, so I think the 3 yield signs are going to go to 2 stop signs.
Okay. I thought the 3 yield signs were
And
gonna go to-
in fairness, Lorraine, I thought that as well until
Yeah.
we received the map, which is why I wanted the map so bad.
Right. Where is the 3rd yield sign? I don't, I could picture where there's 2. Or, well, actually, I think there's only 1 right now, right? That was the problem. They never replaced it. I don't know.
You know, what, this does make sense to me. I mean, you have, I mean, basically Pershing will be the you know,
The
the
throughway.
street. And so this makes sense to me.
This looks like a no-brainer to me. This is an easy one.
I will also tell you that most police departments that I've dealt with have not recommended 3 or 4-way stop signs because it creates the confusion
Right.
of
No,
who
I-
goes
I-
first.
I
More,
hate
more
four-way
than
Right.
2,
So-
more than 2.
So I think
would
that's
be
why
highly
they may have
against.
landed on the plan that's presented to you
Yep.
tonight.
I just worry, like, I come down there all the time, and I'll be honest, I never stop. I lived there for 34 years.
Are you one of the motor vehicle calls?
I've never seen, like, I didn't know you were supposed to stop. So I really think that there's going to be accidents there now because, I mean, you always slow down, you look both ways, like, I don't know, I didn't know you were supposed to stop there. Let me just say that. And
Well, you
I
weren't.
feel
It
like
was a yield.
everybody else is so used to driving that way. I'm afraid people are gonna stop. The person behind you is gonna, ram into your rear end.
I mean, there are a couple of options here. I mean, one, obviously, whenever you change the signalization of an intersection, there's always going to be a learning curve, right? So we're going to have to get used to that. People are going to have to get used to that. But I mean, if the council wanted to, put this up, pass the ordinance, install these stop signs for a 6-month period, we can flag in 6 months to get a report back from the police department to make a determination as to whether or not it's successful. And, ordinances can be rescinded too, to go back to the original yield sign signalization.
I would prefer that.
I would defer to the police department on this. They're the traffic professionals.
Well, and again, this is their recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, and this seems like such a good idea. I wonder why it didn't happen sooner, so.
But typically, they make recommendations when there's multiple accidents or multiple complaints, and I don't think either of those are this case. Certainly not the accidents. We know there hasn't been any in 5 years.
Right. I think this
So-
is somewhat complicated too, because you really can't have the stop bar is, I think, what generated the concern.
Mhm.
You can't put a stop bar with a yield sign. You can only put a stop bar with a stop sign. So I think that's part of the reason
The
that
genesis of this
that
whole
we,
thing.
that we got here. Again, and I think the council member Reynolds is correct, a lot of it comes and is driven from accident data and call volume and things of that nature. I think the painted stop bars is what has gotten this.
Are
Yeah.
the stop bars there now, though?
No, they were, if you read, it says the white painted stop bars on Windermere were not repainted. Yield
Correct.
signs control the intersection, and the manual for uniform traffic control devices, painted stop bars should not be used for yield signs. So I think that's why we're here.
Okay.
And I'm sure that they looked at that, at replacing the stop bars and said, wait a minute, we really shouldn't be doing that. And it made them take a fuller look at this. I mean, certainly we can get Ray Torino in here to discuss it with us, but I don't see this, I personally don't see this as an issue. I see this as something that probably should have been done.
And if the council wants a report in 6 months, as we adopt the ordinance, we can ask the chief to provide that after a 6-month period. And, I hate to use the term trial period because it almost sounds like you don't have to stop at the stop sign if you call it a trial period. But, in 6 months, we could review, how this is working out.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll go back to item D under policy, and we'll turn it over to John Barry, our village planner, to talk about the exclusionary zoning ordinance before you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, John.
Mayor. Want me to just get right into it, Mayor?
Yep.
Okay. So the ordinance that we have before everyone this evening is been in the works for a little while and really comes from the master plan process where there were several recommendations made in both the land use element and the downtown economic development element to take a look at how the village handles its list of permitted uses, which over time has become a very defined and specific list of uses for the business zone and can have the effect of not permitting things that may be desirable, tends to stifle a certain amount of creativity and innovation. And so the charge here was to take a look at ways that we might broaden the scope of uses permitted in the downtown business districts in particular, the B1 and B2 zones that cover all of the downtown, and then the C zone that extends just to the north of downtown and it complements those districts as well. So the way we've approached this is taking a page from what some other municipalities comparable to Ridgewood have done to try to attract more activity in their downtowns. And we've come up with categories of uses that are meant to be encompassing a wide range of different activities, different potential business activities, and include definitions for those categories. And within the definitions, we offer examples of things that may fall within the category, but also include language that says including but not limited to, or such as, so that it's understood that the list isn't meant to be a closed set, and that the way we have things currently in the zoning ordinance, it defines things very, very carefully, very black and white, and if you're not on the list, you're not permitted. So the move away from that is to create broader categories of uses that would essentially encompass the same things that are permitted downtown now, but broaden the horizons a little bit and hopefully attract some additional activity. I think the best known example for people who have been involved in land use and zoning in the village for a long time goes back some years to a situation where a frozen yogurt operation wanted to open. ice cream shops were permitted, but frozen yogurt was not listed as a permitted use, so it was determined, well, that doesn't fall under ice cream shops, it's a different product, so it's not permitted. It seems almost a kind of a silly example, because what's the difference really? And so we're trying to move past some of those really tight restrictions to allow for a little more creativity. The ordinance that's before you has, the first section, it includes that list of definitions. Right now in the village's ordinance, under the land use and development section of the code, there really aren't a whole lot of definitions pertaining to specific uses. That goes to when you get into the business uses, things are very carefully spelled out. And so I guess the thought was that they don't need to be defined if it's very simple and to the point what they are. With the shift in philosophy here, the definitions are meant to provide guidance to the zoning officer. And that's the role the zoning officer plays under the municipal land use law. They're meant to interpret the ordinance and make a determination about the permissibility of uses. And so we have these definitions that are meant to provide a guide. You're within either very specifically within these categories or generally within these categories. That's going to be what guides the zoning officer's decision making. The second section of the ordinance includes some additional language that comes toward the beginning of the zoning section and talks a little bit about that role for the zoning officer and spells out that the zoning officer is offered latitude to make an interpretation about the permissibility of uses with their relationship to these defined categories and to other similar uses. I think it's important to give the zoning officer that specific authority because it's in many ways a thankless job, but it's an important job to make those hard decisions sometimes. And when the ordinance supports a more open interpretation of what may or may not be permitted, it gives the zoning officer a little more of a level of comfort to allow things that may be emerging uses, new things that are not necessarily known broadly and may not be specifically defined anywhere, but somebody trying out a creative idea that would be generally beneficial to the business community. From there, we just go through the various business districts to replace the very specific list of uses that were in the ordinance today with these more general categories. You'll see that the overall tenor of the uses really doesn't change. I don't think we have any great departures in terms of what's permitted now, but it's just meant to move away from that more restrictive list to provide a more open and inclusive list of potential uses within those categories that I mentioned. And so that's really the rundown. I can go through any specifics of individual zones or talk about any of these use categories or definitions if that would be helpful. But it's you move through B1 and B2 have some differences today. They maintain certain differences. The C zone has a little bit more intense character in some ways. And then the office and business, the office building districts are really focused on office rather than retail, and they continue to maintain that character. So that's the basics, the overview. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm happy to spend as long as anybody would like on going through this in more detail.
John, I just want to say I think you did an outstanding job on this. In our agenda, this is incorrectly referred to as exclusionary zoning, which is a different type of zoning and comes with its own thorny patch of issues. This is really an inclusionary zoning ordinance, and it is, but you crafted it such that it is broad enough to allow some new item, something that was not contemplated in our zoning ordinance. Because again, as you mentioned, we had a listing. And when I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce as its president, I saw again and again how some perfectly good business that we all wanted, if it wasn't on the list, they couldn't get in. And now they either wouldn't come, or either they or the landlord was losing 8-10 months worth of rent, perhaps more, either one spending it or one not getting it, so that they could get a variance. And frozen yogurt was one example. Fred Astaire Dance Studio was another. And what you did here by eating and drinking establishments, it is broad enough that it takes in some new type of business that we hadn't thought of. And I will tell you that for many years, since I've been here, it had been so long since we updated our zoning list that the term haberdasher was listed as a permitted use. Ultimately, we got that amended, but this is really a forward-thinking zoning ordinance, and while I'm sure that my council colleagues have many questions, I've spoken to you about this on many occasions, and I just want to thank you for doing really such a comprehensive job, because this makes it, when we say we want to help the business community, this is the kind of thing that does it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you.
I really appreciate the new definition of eating establishments, because before it was just whoosh, the restaurants were all under retail, which made no sense to me, a layperson. But here, the definitions really make sense. I do have a question about B1. That would be under 190-10B1. A3 allows financial institutions excluding drive-in banks. Well, elsewhere, you talk about drive-in and drive-through banks. I don't know the difference between a drive-in and a drive-through, but I think it's drive-through banks that I've seen. But if we're excluding drive-through banks in B1, I think the same safety reasons for not having drive-through banks applies to drive-through restaurants. And I should just tell my colleagues that to the extent that drive-throughs exist, those uses would, my understanding is, would run with the land. So it wouldn't be like they'd be, evicted tomorrow. But in future, you wouldn't have new drive-throughs where pedestrians intersecting with driveways gets dangerous. And in speaking with the police, establishments like the Starbucks drive-through is a constant problem. And so here, I would like to see a reference to exclude drive-through banks and drive-through restaurants or eating establishments. That would be my one suggestion. And similarly, in the B2 zone.
Is that only allowed under this ordinance in the C zone, though? I see it in the C zone.
Yeah, they're allowed in the C zone.
Right,
Right now, they exist in B2.
right.
And
Well, there's one that I can think of, and it's the one that you mentioned, which is a problem, and I'm just
Right.
wondering, John, would you explain to us
Sure.
the distinction between the C zone and the B1 and B2?
So for starters, let me just backtrack briefly. The zoning ordinance now for the B1 district currently prohibits drive-in or drive-through uses across the board. So Councilwoman Perrin, that is on the books now as far as a prohibition on it refers to drive-in or drive-through uses, including but not limited to drive-in banks, drive-in pharmacies, and drive-in restaurants. So that's the language currently used in the ordinance, and that's not intended to change for the B1 district. So that reference to financial institutions excluding drive-in banks may be some redundancy, if anything. As to the B2 zone, the current ordinance conditionally permits drive-through banks, and it refers to them as drive-in banks. I mean, I don't know if those terms are distinct in any way. We can go back and forth, use them interchangeably. But I think the desire is to move away from those uses in the downtown. And while you are correct in saying those that are there are in essence allowed to continue to operate as long as they do so, and they would not be permitted to expand without going to the zoning board for a variance, and new ones would not be permitted to open up without the same. So the move there would be to remove the conditional use permission for the drive-in banks in the B2. Then as to the distinction with the C1, the C district, they currently permit the drive-ins. This is the C district is really the area moving up Chestnut Street, just to the north of downtown. And I believe there's a few pieces of property there that may be able to accommodate a use like this, but it's probably not very likely. It's probably not the best location for it, but if the desire is to continue that prohibition in the C district, I don't think that's an issue. I think that may be good policy as well.
Could you tell us what the C district is?
He just said.
Where it is,
I missed
or
it,
what
forgive
is?
me.
Sorry.
Yeah, like where is the C district?
Going up Chestnut.
Yeah, it's on the west side of Chestnut Street mainly.
All right, forgive me.
As we're talking, to me, drive-in means a movie. And if we could just change these all to drive-through, because I think that's what we're really talking about.
I agree, makes sense.
That's a very sensible and concise change to make. Happy to do that.
And then there are some relative pronouns that I'll give you tomorrow. I don't want to take everybody's time here.
Any other questions?
No, I think this is great. I just want to see it executed and what develops. It'll be so interesting to see what happens.
And Mayor, I just want to add, I think the timing of this from an administrative standpoint is on point as well, because with the backlog that we're experiencing currently at the Board of Adjustment, variances that would fall under zoning requirements in the CBD, will not have to go there anymore as long as it falls under the ordinance that John's presented to tonight. So hopefully that will take the pressure off of the zoning board, at least from the commercial side, in the foreseeable future.
Great.
Oh, wait a second.
Whoop.
I have one more question. Under the Highway Commercial District, there are 2 plots of property that fall under that. And under the additions that we have here, B16 says single-family detached residential dwellings. I can't imagine them next to the highway, for one thing. But I also don't know what a single-family detached residential dwelling is. I don't know.
That's the house you live in.
Oh, it's, okay, gotcha, okay. I was thinking attached. But, my gosh, I can't imagine homes in those situations.
Well,
Those are hard
they are
to buy on.
currently permitted there. It's really, it's two pieces of property in the highway commercial zone. One of them is the strip center with Starbucks and several other uses on the southbound side of Route 17. And the other one is just around the jug handle that doesn't actually have frontage on 17, that has some medical facility and perhaps some other offices in it. I know there's a medical office in that building. Those are the only 2 parcels in the highway commercial district. I agree that running on the highway, a single family residence would be probably unlikely. I suppose there's a world where the other parcel that's on Linwood would be a possibility. But if the preference would be to remove that as a permitted use. I don't think there's any downside.
Yeah, I think it's a terrible location for a single-family home. Does anybody agree with me?
Yeah, I'm fine with removing it.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Anything else for John? Okay. Thanks, John. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you.
And
Take
Mayor,
care.
that concludes my portion of the agenda.
Great. We will now return to public comment.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Boyd A. Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Just one item that was on your agenda tonight, the purchase of the 7 tri-band radios from Motorola. I recall from the budget hearing that the Chief of Police, Chief Forrest Lyons, indicated by the year 2026, he was going to ask that his police radio system be fully encrypted. My concern is that whether these 7 radios that are being purchased in 2024 will be able to handle the full encryption. I believe there's a module that goes in the radios to do that. So I would suggest that you not buy any radios in 2024 that aren't able to go past 2026 when the chief has indicated that he wishes to change the system over to a fully encrypted system. If you could just check that out. My other comment is that I was at Habernacle this week walking my dog on a leash that was under 6 feet long, by the way. And I noticed that the Habernacle Park is now marked out by paint, white paint, where the proposed pavilion is going to go. It is going to go back behind where the barn was. And I know by policy that you've always notified the residents on Hillcrest Road when there is going to be something going on there, and the residents have been very appreciative of that. But based upon where the markout is now for where the pavilion is likely to go, I'm wondering if the residents on Andover Road are going to be notified as to what you propose to do or where you propose to locate the pavilion. From my guess, the residents on Andover Road, or at least some of the residents on Andover, are within 200 feet of where that structure is going to be located, and I'm just hoping that you've sent letters to them indicating your desire to put the location there and that it is likely to be within 200 feet of their property, in keeping with the fact that you've notified residents on Hillcrest Road whenever you intended to make changes to the park that might affect them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Boyd.
Rorick Hallaby, 1 Franklin. 3 items. Sean Hamlin in the styrofoam program. You can really describe what he's done in 4 or 5 words, which is doing well by doing good. I'd like to see more and more of that. I was delighted to hear about the bus station, another eyesore that's been sitting there for forever in the day, that something is going to be done with it. Now, what I urge you to do is to have a public restroom there. I get all these things about the police say this, the police say that. No. We need a public restroom in the central business district. Every town I've been to has public restrooms. For some reason, Ridgewood can avoid the subject. Okay? Shelter Island has one. And these things, they have gates. The doors open up after 10 minutes, so you can't go to sleep there and lock people out. Please focus on that. The last item, and it doesn't take much imagination to know, I'm a big fan of our new village manager. But the one thing he said that kind of hit a nerve with me was 4-way stop signs. In the 35 years, or 40 years that I ran my company, I traveled all over, internationally and domestically. And domestically, I must have driven 400,000 miles. I mean, literally from Maine to Southern California, from Florida to Washington, all over. The number of times I've driven across from Denver to Indiana, on and on and on. And you know something? There are tens of thousands of stop signs, and people don't have problems with them. In Ridgewood, for some reason, we have this thing, oh, they're too complicated. Oh, people are trying to discourage people from using them. It doesn't make sense. We need four-way stop signs. People will get used to them. People aren't so stupid that they cannot get used to using them. And today, and frankly, and as I recover some of my strength, and I've been doing more and more walking around the CBD, yet again, as I was heading south on Broad, I come to Ridgewood Avenue, and this guy flies through the intersection without stopping. You know something? We need to slow people down. We need a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Ridgewood Avenue and Broad Street. And I know the engineering department, they have this thing against it. I don't understand the logic, because frankly, every time I spoke to them, or every time I went to the CSAC, I was always given a bill of goods. Oh, you can do this, you can do that, and look up the MFUT, or whatever municipal booklet is. So please, 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 have an open mind about more four-way stop signs, including slowing down traffic at Ridgewood Avenue and Broad Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Rurik.
Good evening, Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I certainly agree with Mr. Hallaby that a public restroom somewhere in the CBD would be great. I think those of us that have lived in town a long time know certain places where you can sneak in if you have to go to the bathroom, but I think it's a great idea. If not at the bus terminal, then somewhere. The reason I came to the mic, though, is because I'm wondering if I was hoping we were going to get an update, because a letter had gone out last week that on Friday, the 19th of April, Matrix New World Engineering was going to be doing soil sampling at Shedler, and I didn't know if that had happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Cynthia O'Keefe, 542 West Saddle River Road. So I just had a question about this, the wetlands assessment, and I'm happy to hear, that we're moving forward with that. But my question is, are we putting all of our eggs in one basket using suburban engineering? So, for example, at the Fields Committee, Russ Koromora, who I'm assuming would not be doing a wetlands assessment, but, a person from the same agency is being introduced and kind of yucking it up with the people at the meeting, and he's now being paid to crunch sports numbers or figures of how many children need fields. I just think it seems odd to me, and maybe it's just me. I think it's a little strange. I know they offer a lot of services. I've seen their website. They also do landscape architecture, and maybe they're looking to get that contract too. So I don't understand why they would be doing a wetlands assessment. It kind of seems counterintuitive to me. And again, maybe it's just the way my brain works, but like I work in banking, we have 4 eyes principle. You'd never have this same person or same organization doing 2 projects that are conflicting in nature. So, and also, I would assume any organization that does do this wetlands assessment, that they are also aware of the soil dumping, because maybe they would have to dig deeper, and maybe there's a consequence of the dumping on potential wetlands. So those things should be taken into consideration. So that is, really what I wanted to bring up. The other thing that Ann mentioned about the soil testing, I think the NJDEP, unless I'm mistaken, I believe they had to be on site and have like a 5-day notification in order to do so. So I'm assuming if it did happen, that was also part and parcel of the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia. Anybody else in the room? Seeing none, we're going to go to hybrid access. Catherine, you're up.
Well, thank you. I heard so many good things at today's meeting, so I want to thank you for that, first of all. I do want to say that I totally agree with Rurik about a four-way stop at Broad and Maple. It is a confusing and not an intuitive intersection.
Excuse me,
Nobody's-
Catherine, I failed to ask you for your name and address, or your
Oh,
address, rather. Forgive me.
Sorry, Catherine Schmidt, 123 South Irving Street. Do I have to start again, or can I just continue?
So sorry.
Do I have to start again, or
no,
can I
you're
just
good.
continue? Oh, okay. So I was just going to say that intersection on Broad and Maple is not intuitive. You don't recognize that the Maple Avenue has the right-of-way because it dead ends at the train station. And Ridgewood Avenue, sorry. Ridgewood Avenue on Broad Street is very confusing. And you don't recognize that that Ridgewood Avenue has the right-of-way. But that's really not what I came to talk about. I just wanted to support the four-way stop sign there. I agree with the mayor that Ridgewood is such a wonderful town. However, it could not help but hear today a recurring theme tonight. We didn't get any bids. And I think this could be a leading indicator, and I urge us to not ignore any message that this might be sending to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And seeing no one else, I'm going to close public comment, and we will take a resolution to go into closed session.
Could I just say?
Well, by all means, forgive me,
Sorry.
excuse me.
Sorry.
Comments,
But
my mistake.
With the four-way stop sign and the issue at Broad and Ridgewood, that is a lingering issue. I mean, it's been there forever. I know in prior master plans, there's this lovely image of a roundabout. I know that Mr. Halby and I, as civil engineers, we've had that discussion. It's just such an awkward intersection. And I think everybody in town's almost been T-boned at it, pretty much both ways. And with the new developments in town and more residents, we're seeing more. I mean, what would it take for us to look at that in a more holistic way? I mean, the roundabout is one idea. I know you'd lose some stuff, but at the four-way stop sign, I think we should look at it. I'm going to pick on Lorraine because I think she's going to be with me.
We have discussed it at CSAC many times. The engineering department is 100% against it. They, apparently, in order to do this, you need things called warrants, and the engineering department say the warrants are not there, and they can't.
Go slowly.
I don't know what the warrants are, like maybe a certain number of accident. I don't know for sure, but according to the engineering department, there are not the warrants to request stop signs, and that they will not put their license on the line for requesting stop signs where things should not be.
I'm gathering warrants.
Basically.
Warrants are the criteria
Yes,
necessary.
Yes.
And then if somebody stopped and was hit from behind and you have an accident, then, our liability gets brought in? No? Okay, I'm wrong.
That's just strictly a motor vehicle.
Okay.
Well, I know everybody wants to pack up, but, can we look at this a little more holistically? Is there any way to take a secondary look? Because it's just always, what about a roundabout? The old picture, why not cut back a little? Have we looked at that?
I think to do a roundabout, you'd have to
The old picture had it.
yeah. I mean, you'd have to take
It just can't be-
historic property on that corner.
It just can't be that, everybody complains about this intersection and we do nothing. There's got to be a way to look at it differently.
I mean, can I ask, I know it's an awkward, intersection, and those of us that live in town know the way it's supposed to flow, and I think it's a great point with new people moving in. Do we have many accidents there? Because I've never, again, maybe I'm wrong, I've never thought of that as an accident-prone location.
None in the last 5 years.
Well,
Yeah.
we did have a dog fatality there recently. Isn't that where the dog was hit?
I don't know.
Yes, that was
and
we talked about it after
that was very traumatic.
I could tell you for me, and I don't want to start another conversation on this, and Keith, I was going to ask you about this off session. To me, Glen and Oak is a far, far, far worse situation than the one downtown. I've lived near Glen and Oak for the last 12 years, and there's easily 2 to 3 serious accidents at that intersection every year. They were just there now replacing a water hydrant or fire hydrant that had been taken out. by an accident like 2 weeks ago. I know we've talked, it's an awkward situation because you're close to a light, but if we're going to talk about intersections that probably actually we have real accidents on, I'd like to talk about Glen and Oak in future.
And Glen is a county road, so there's additional implications to that, so. I mean,
That's fine.
I understand what you're saying, and
That's fine.
I agree completely. But just keep in mind, it's a county road, so there's additional discussion needs to happen
So
when you're
let's
regulating.
maybe start those additional discussions, because if we're talking about intersections that are truly posing a threat to our citizens, again, I mean, whether you get hit on a county road or you get hit on a Ridgewood road, the driver,
Right.
you know, the victims don't care, right? So to me, if we can have that discussion, that to me be more meaningful than other intersections where we think there's a problem, but maybe the math doesn't really quite prove it out.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about some significant capital work at Glen and Oak, whereas, you know, the signalization with signage is something that we do every day. And I'm not minimizing what you're saying, I'm just putting in perspective that there
No, I
could be
hear you.
additional capital work that needs to happen there, whereas, you know, swapping out signs is a
No, and
relatively
I mean, I'm going
easy
to double
process.
down on the other problem, and Lorraine, back me up here, is that you have, in town, you have more likely of a pedestrian strike rather than 2 car accident strikes, because you have more foot traffic. And I will say, Evan, I did get in a car accident when I was a teenager at your corner, so I know how dangerous it is.
There it is. It's my
But
Exhibit A.
You can go back into 1990. But I do, you know, I just don't know how to do this. I'm new here. Like, how do we look at that street corner, which I feel like everybody in town talks about and says that, like, how, since we're new here, is there any opportunity to look at again?
There's always an opportunity to look at it again.
Do you want to look at it again?
Well, actually, I just wanted to,
It's been brought up several times in the engineering department. Each time, I mean, Rorick has been at most of the meetings. Can't talk. Sorry, I shouldn't have said your name. I apologize, but it has been brought up, you know, in the last 4 years, I would say at least 3 serious times. And all 3 times, the engineering department they are not going to put their stamp of approval on it and risk their, you know, integrity as an engineer by recommending it, is basically what was said.
We'll look at it. I'll pull the picture of the cop on the roundabout from the master plan. It was kind of whimsical. Come on, Matt, indulge me.
bear in mind, if you put a roundabout there, you're not going to have room for a Christmas tree.
Now, there's probably a number of issues on it, but I think that this Cohen's question is where do you begin the discussion? And usually these start at CSAC. It's already started at CSAC, but the engineering office seems to have taken a position against it. I don't know what the police department does, or how they feel about it, but,
Listen, if this is an intersection that there's true concern about, and I believe there is, because I've heard about it at CSAC meetings myself, you know, we have the ability to do a comprehensive study at that location. So I'll take that back to engineering and to police, whether that's in-house or we talk to a consulting traffic engineer. You know, that's something that we would have to have a discussion about. But we can bring it back to Chris and the chief and come back with a recommendation.
Yeah, I will tell you, I am at, near, on that intersection many times a day, as much as any human being in town. The problem that I see is for pedestrians, that pedestrians crossing any of those, of the 3 of the 4 streets, it's very tricky. Like, you have to be really paying attention, and God forbid you are, as we see all the time, texting on your phone or even talking on your phone. For me, the concern is pedestrians. So I think that would be a good idea to take a comprehensive look at that intersection, because I've crossed that. I can't tell you how many times I've crossed that street and people don't see me. Or maybe they do, but never mind. So I think it would be a good idea to take a look at that.
And I'm not going to give up on my intersection. I would ask that we start having some conversations on Glen and Oak. I'm understanding it'll be more complicated, but I think we should start having those conversations.
Well, let me just interject here, because we have had, and we've had meetings with Keith, and one thing that they have done is they have made the signal, the green signal, time longer going north and south on Maple, to try and avoid the people not wanting to wait at the light and going up to Bryden and then to Oak and Glen, or coming from the other direction, going up Maston, and then going to Oak and Glen. The police department has reported at CSAC that they feel that it is helping to have less, to let the less backup on Maple is creating less people going on Oak and Glen. The other thing that they were supposed to do, and maybe Keith, you can check on this, because I know there was a little bit pushback. I thought it was decided, but now I think there's a little pushback that at the intersection of Oak and Glen, say coming from your house, the short side of Oak, they were going to put a sign saying right turn only. Meaning
and- right,
somebody
and I like
coming
that
from
idea.
you
Right.
cannot go straight across Glen or cannot go left down the hill.
And that was something I know I'd heard discussion about, making almost that whole intersection right turn only, which would, because the really accidents are when people try to go across against that busy traffic on Oak Street,
Exactly,
or they
yes.
try to make the left, which you can't see cars coming from the east side coming from Glen. So yeah, again, I understand, like, I know it's the end of the meeting, so I'm gonna stop now, but to the extent I can get that back on the agenda, I would love to have more conversation on it.
Do you remember, Keith, why that sign didn't happen?
I don't, but I'll,
Okay.
I'll go back and review my notes from that meeting, and
Okay.
we'll talk to Chris and Chief Lyons and come back with some further discussion on this.
And Evan, Meredith has been advocating pretty big time. Meredith across the street on that corner. She's been really, and I connected her with Lorraine.
Great.
And I also did want to let you all know that at CBDAC, the chief of police reported that there are more pedestrian hits in the residential areas of town than in the CBD. He feels that's because when there are a lot of parked cars and you're in the CBD, drivers kind of expect pedestrians. But in the residential areas, they're just flying.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Mayor, if I may, just a few comments post-public session. Mr. Loving, with regard to Habernickel, I know there are markouts up there. They're all conceptual, so nothing's etched in stone as to the placement of the pavilion. When things become more firmed up, we'll definitely communicate with the residents. Ms. Loving, Matrix was to start their work last week. I was actually attending a funeral on Friday, so I was not in. The DEP has asked Matrix to modify their plan slightly. So we're hopeful that next week they'll be in the field and there'll be new notification going out, letting folks know as to the time frame of them being on site. Ms. O'Keefe, with regard to Suburban, and with all due respect, I couldn't disagree more. I can tell you that having multiple engineering firms on the same project, in my experience, tends to cause finger pointing in the long term. Suburban is multi-outfitted. They have a lot of different divisions. It will not be Ross, who's working on the SHPO application, who will be out there doing the wetlands delineation. It'll be a separate group within Suburban. But I do like the fact that we're dealing with one professional consulting firm on this project. It's very complicated. There are a lot of moving parts with the Shedler property, which you're well aware of. You work on this every day. And I am fully confident in Andrew and Ross and their professionalism and their awareness now of this project, that I have every faith and confidence that they will do their due diligence and do it well when it comes to the wetlands delineation and the LOI. That's all I have, Mayor.
And with that, let's start a resolution to go into closed session.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on April 24th, 2024 at 7:30 PM or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session will be held in the caucus room of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session is limited to personnel, appointment to boards and committees, and contract negotiations personnel, supervisors, union negotiations. These matters are allowable under NJSA 4-12 and be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody.